Thank you for the kind introduction. Greetings, everyone. My name is AKSHAT. I work as Vice President of Business Development at US Immigration Fund. We at US Immigration Fund are proud to be the platinum partners of IREX Hyderabad 2025. Every year, we look at partnering with IREX because it brings in a huge amount of value. And hopefully today, with our presentation, you're able to know a little bit more about EB-5 and have your concepts cleared. So first of all, who are we at US Immigration Fund? US Immigration Fund is a EB-5 regional center. And regional center is essentially, in simple words, a fund manager or a fund administrator that is licensed by the US CIS and is under the purview of the Securities Exchange Commission or the SEC. We have an executive team headed by Mr. Nick Mastriani, the second, Nicholas Mastriani, the third, Mark Giresi, Mr. Brian Friedman, Ashley Flukas, and Jinlan Sheng. I'm happy to share that I joined US Immigration Fund in 2022, and that's where we started the India chapter of this company. And slowly in the last 3 years, we've expanded to become a beautiful team of 5 members. I have 4 of my colleagues, dear colleagues here in Hyderabad today, and one of my dear colleagues is based in Tampa, Florida. His name is Mark Samples. At US Immigration Fund, we bring in a collective expertise of over 50 years of knowledge in the world of EB-5. All our executive office people are people who've worked in this space for a long time, who understand what it takes to run an EB-5 regional center, and we look forward to sharing those insights with you as we move forward. In terms of a few numbers, we at US Immigration Fund have been in this business for the last 15 years. We work with about 5,100 plus investors, raising about close to $3 billion in EB-5 capital. When you talk about EB-5 today, and we have a panel discussion as well, we'll try and demystify the entire process for you. It's essentially divided into 2 steps where you first get your conditional green card, or in simple words, it's a petition called the I-526E. And then once you already have your conditional green card, you apply for something called the final permanent green card, which is called the I-829 petition. So at US Immigration Fund, we've had multiple approvals when it comes to I-829 and I-526E petitions as well. We've been doing this business for the last 15 years. We're headquartered in Jupiter, Florida, which is on the East Coast. And we have physical presence in key markets like India, China, Vietnam, Hong Kong, LATAM, and Africa, to name a few. So let's try and break this down for you guys a little bit, because I'm sure while a lot of people here want to know about EB-5, they might want to understand what exactly is it, and is this a program that you should be looking at in the first place or not. EB-5 essentially is a program that offers a permanent pathway to US residency. It is a program that one should look at if the American dream is your goal and if you're seeking a US green card. If you're seeking an investment, if you're looking at investments to make money, EB-5 is not the program for you. It is a program end-to-end structured for someone who's looking at a US green card. Now, in terms of the details of the program, an EB-5 investment comes at a minimum investment of $800,000, which needs to be made in a targeted employment area project. The pillar of the program is that the $800,000 invested by any investor needs to be invested by a lawful source of fund. In simple words, it means that it needs to be a traceable income and accounted for. So, a part of this entire process is obviously you working with a US-based immigration law firm, and they are the ones who will handhold you and help you ensure that you basically are able to prepare a petition which qualifies the requirements of USCIS from it being a lawful source of fund. The second pillar of the program is that every investment that an investor makes should create a minimum of 10 jobs per investor petition. It is only on the basis of job creation that you would end up finally getting your permanent green card. It is an investment at risk, but that doesn't mean it needs to be risky. Just like we make investments in the field of mutual funds where it is still an at-risk investment, that doesn't mean it's a risky investment. So we'd like to clarify and educate our investors that this is not a fixed deposit. It's an investment into a real estate project. It is subjected to it being at risk, but having said that, it is then our duty as a fund manager at US Immigration Fund to guide you, to handhold you, and to tell you what are the steps that we've taken to demystify and de-risk the investment offerings as much as possible. A couple of benefits of the EB-5 visa program: it helps you to get an expedited and a fast green card to the US. I'm sure that, I come to Hyderabad almost once in 2.5, 3 months. We have a lot of investors here from Vijayawada, from Guntur, from Hyderabad. A lot of our people who have their origins in South India have their friends and family in the US who are working in key areas like Bay Area, who are in New York, New Jersey, California. A lot of our qualified people are in the fields of STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And we're all aware of the uncertainties that lie on visa programs like H-1B. The general progression for any student who goes to the US is, you go to the US, you study on an F1 student visa program. Depending on whether you do a STEM or a non-STEM course, you get a considerable amount of 1 to 3 years of work permit. And that's where the anxiety kicks in, because if you don't get your H-1B visa stamped, if you don't make it to the lottery, you have to sadly pack your bags and come back home. And that's where the EB-5 visa program has, since 1990, continued to offer that kind of flexibility to investors, where they can look at securing a permanent green card and a secure future in the US. It is a predictable way. So as I said, that while the H-1B is subjected to a lottery, in the EB-5 visa program, as long as you're investing a minimum of $800,000 of credible source of funds into a qualified EB-5 project, which generates a minimum of 10 jobs per investor petition, you should be good to go. I think one of the stars of the new act was when the government allowed something called the concurrent adjustment of status. Let's try and again break this down in simple words and not jargons for the audience today. So let's assume that in case you have a friend, family, relative in the US who's currently on a valid visa category in the US. Now, what could be a valid visa category? It could be something like an H-1B, it could be an H-4, it could be an L-1, it could be an F-1. Anyone who's on a valid visa category today in the US, while they file their EB-5 petition, is allowed to file a petition called the adjustment of status, or in simple words, a petition that helps you get an expedited work and travel permit as early as 4 to 6 months. So during the panel discussion today, we will be talking about what are the timelines for people to get their conditional and permanent green card. But the biggest advantage that today investors, especially those in the US, are getting is that they are able to remove those uncertainties that lie on the H-1B as early as 4 to 6 months. And that work and travel permit is an unrestricted work and travel permit, which is issued to you for a minimum period of 5 years and can be renewed. So imagine if you are on an H-1B and you are sort of very anxious of whether your employer is going to lay you off, and you do file an EB-5 and you do get a work permit, you're pretty much sorted. You can switch your employer, you can run a business, or you could just chill by the beach for 6 months and nobody's going to ask you a question. So as we spoke about benefits of filing the concurrent adjustment of status, the biggest two benefits is that it gives you a work and travel permit. We've had a lot of stories of our investors where parents, their kids who are in the US, when they apply for jobs and when they mention on the application form that they need employer sponsorship, the chances of their acceptance drop significantly. So when you apply for EB-5 and when you have an open work and travel permit, it increases your chances to get a job application that you desire, and probably also command the pay structure that you eventually deserve, which is at par with the other people that are green card holders and as well as US citizens in the country. We'll move on to the next segment of the presentation. So while we have a plethora of projects available at US Immigration Fund that we bring on to Hyderabad today, we'll be talking about one of our project offerings. So we'll try and keep it brief. So the first project that we have today is Alpine 9340. It's essentially a multi-family project for lease. So in India, we generally call it a residential building. I think that's more familiar term that we use. Alpine 9340 is a project which is located in an area called Whitefish, Montana. Now, this is a residential building or a multi-family for lease, which has about 210 units. It is located very close to the Glacier National Park, which is a top tourism destination site. And it provides, the idea of coming up with such a project was to basically provide an affordable housing solution to all the people that work in and around the area of Whitefish, Montana. Now, you might be wondering as to why are so many people in the EB-5 space coming and pitching you projects today, and why are they saying that, this is a good project, you should look at it. Well, the answer is that while EB-5 is an $800,000 investment, at the end of the day, you're eligible to getting your money back upon successful completion of the project and it actually creating that kind of revenue. So the $800,000 that you're investing is not a cost, it's an investment. However, the likelihood of you getting your money back eventually completely depends on what is the project that you're investing in, who's the developer, is it in a good location or not, and will it eventually be able to generate that kind of cash flow that allows the developer to repay all EB-5 investors, which is why we're talking about this project today. Yeah, in Alpine 9340, it's through a developer called Kibo Group. Now, Kibo Group has been into real estate since 1996. They've done a plethora of projects in the Southern California region. They've done various asset classes like multifamily, like retail projects, hotels, etc. And we're happy to be partnering with them on this project, which is Alpine 9340. I think we're going to cover this again in the panel today, but when you look at an $800,000 investment, it's essentially in a targeted employment area project. And the targeted employment area as a category is further subdivided into 3 subcategories called rural areas, high employment areas, and infrastructure projects. Now, all of these 3 categories of projects have certain visa set-asides or quota that is assigned by the USCIS. The government came up with the EB-5 Reform and Integrity Act on the 15th of March 2022, led by the Joe Biden government. And while this program has been there since 1990, this was a landmark date in the world of EB-5 because this was the first ever time that this program was reauthorized for 5 years. So it's funny that we as industry experts have been in this program for a long time, but EB-5 has always been known as a pilot program. But finally, in 2022, the government said that we are going to increase the investment amount from $500,000 to $800,000, but are going to further incentivize investors, those who invest in rural projects, those who invest in targeted employment area projects with a priority processing. So when you invest in a rural project, you could probably look at getting your conditional green card as early as 1 to 1.5 years of you filing the petition. Whereas in a high employment area project, you're probably looking at about 2 to 2.5 years. And these are obviously general processing timelines that we're seeing. Keep in mind that while we're talking about a timeline of 1 to 2.5 years, depending on the kind of project you invest in, for those who are in the US, I see a lot of parents here. So if you're looking at EB-5 for your kids, they will be eligible to file the adjustment of status, which will help them get that expedited work and travel permit as early as 4 to 6 months, and that's the application to look out for. Very briefly, what do we see in this project which sort of helps us bring this onto the table for our EB-5 investors as a fund manager? I'm sure, again, there are a lot of EB-5 regional centers here today, so you'll get a very good flavor of the different kind of asset classes and projects that we bring onto the table. With respect to Alpine 9340, the reason why we like it is because, first, it's a great asset class. It's multifamily for lease or a residential building. I think we always would understand that even if there's a crisis, even if there's an economic turndown, people might not spend their disposable income on a hotel, or people might not buy a luxury house, but the demand for an affordable housing solution will always be there. And so therefore, we feel like this is a great asset class. It's at a great location, but the answer also lies in the cap stack. So the cap stack, essentially, when you see any EB-5 project would have the developer's equity, which is the amount of money that the developer puts into the project, a healthy 25 to 30% of EB-5 contribution, as well as a senior lender, which would be somewhere around 45 to 55%. Now, this total project is divided into 2 phases. So the 70 million that the project has a total value has been divided into 2 phases strategically by the fund manager or by US Immigration Fund. That's only to ensure that we as a fund manager would only do phase 2 or only raise funds for the developer in phase 2 if we see that the developer does meet the expectations that are from them and if investors from phase 1 are repaid. We at US Immigration Fund have done projects which have a value of close to $2 billion. We've raised as low as 14.4 to as high as $500 million in top projects in New York and Manhattan. And the smaller the size of the project, I think the better it is because it just de-risks yourself as much as possible. So those are a few brief points as to why we feel that this is a good project, and we'd be happy to obviously discuss further at our booths. This is obviously something that we've discussed during the course of the presentation, that when you're looking at this project, it has enough and more jobs that need to be created. It comes with a priority processing because it falls under the rural project criteria or location. It's a mixed-use development with 210 multifamily units, and the city of Whitefish, Montana released a report where they said that there is a demand for almost 900 units by 2030, and we're just coming up with about 210 of them. So that should be perfectly fine. Moving on to the last phase of the presentation, when the investment amount was increased from $500,000 to 800K, we at US Immigration Fund were one of the first pioneer regional centers that realized that there is certainly a gap in the industry, and therefore we came up with a financing program to make this program a more accessible one for prospective EB-5 investors. And we were one of the first ones to launch our loan program. So at US Immigration Fund, through our affiliate entity, we do have a loan program structured by Opportunity Fund Lender. What is Opportunity Fund Lender? It's basically a lender specializing only in the world of EB-5, trying to make this program more accessible for prospective EB-5 investors so that they can achieve their American dream. Certain key loan features at OFL, we do offer a loan of up to $300,000 to qualified investors only, and I'll probably put a huge star on that because we do have a qualification test and a metric. So if you are curious to know more about it, please feel free to come at our booth and we'll share those details. It comes at a 0% origination fee, at a 5.95% of annual rate of interest. I guess we're all aware that the fixed deposit rates in India are also close to 6%. So I think that's not a bad interest rate to get an EB-5 loan. The EB-5 loan offered by Opportunity Fund Lender is up to a tenure of 5 years. There are no prepayment penalties, as there should never be. The annual interest payments is how the program is structured, with amortization that is a part of any legitimate loan program. And we do have an IFF 260 approval from the USCIS for one of our investors who utilize such a similar loan program. So that sort of validates the fact that the government has gone through the program and has given us an approval accordingly. Yeah, you can scan this QR code. It will basically lead you to the website of OFL, where you can drop in your details. You can reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to assist you. I see a lot of cameras going up, so that's very motivating to see. Perfect. I'd like to conclude by saying that we at US Immigration Fund have been pioneers in the EB-5 industry. We've been in this space since 2010, and in the last 15 years, we've tried to work towards achieving two main objectives for all EB-5 investors, which is ensuring that you get your green card and ensuring that you get your money back. I am accompanied by my great team at this conference, so please feel free to join us at our booth if you have any questions. On that note, I'd like to very sincerely thank IREX for organizing such a wonderful conference year after year. And I thank you all for taking out the time, and I hope that this was helpful. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen.